Hello and welcome to The Forum, the show where we get to know a student from Monroe County Community College. I'm your host, Lauren Werlinger, the editor of the Agora, which is the student newspaper at MCCC. For this episode of The Forum, we will be featuring 18-year-old Ella Ryan. Hi Ella, it's great to have you here today.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
So you play tabletop role-playing games with your friends. How did you get into that?
Actually, my parents bought me and my brothers the 3 starting books for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. I think 3 or 4 years ago. 4 years, I think. It was kind of weird because it felt like unprompted, but we really got into it after that. So I think we've been playing ever since.
Yeah. So like you said, you started playing about like 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you play with now?
It's some people that I play with are actually of the same group. I mean, you're in my group, as you know. But I used to play mostly with my brother's friends. And then we've sort of split into 2 different groups. One that focuses more on like the fighting aspect of things and one that focuses more on the role-playing aspect.
Mm-hmm. So you said you've been playing it for like 3 or 4 years. Why have you stuck with it all this time?
I think just because there's so much versatility into like what you can do. Like no story being told from a tabletop role-playing game is ever going to be the same. It never feels like it's getting boring or repetitive because if it ever does do that, you can just change things at any point in time. I also really, really enjoy the character creating aspect. It's probably my favorite thing to do, and yeah.
Why would you say it's your favorite thing to do?
Mostly because, again, there's like so many different choices that you can do. And also, I'm not really like a writer, but I do like to create different things. And having a role-playing game where you can create a character and then test them and how they'd act in a bunch of different situations, it's really interesting because I would never like write a story like that, but I can still see how it would kind of play out.
Right, right. I mean, you talked about having like a bunch of different combinations that you can do. Can you give me like an example of the different kind of games you've played?
Yeah, so I played D&D 5th edition for most of the time that I've been playing role-playing games. And I think my favorite character from that was a divination wizard named Mira. She is a changeling, so she has the ability to shape shift at any time that she wants to, but she doesn't really like that about it. It's kind of a weird thing to have some sort of identity but not connected to like a specific form. But I've also been playing Monster of the Week recently, which I think I probably enjoy better. There's a lot more fighting mechanics that it just makes things roll more smoothly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you've played as both a player and as a game master. Which do you prefer and why?
I definitely think I prefer being a player. There's a lot of extra work as a game master that kind of stressed me out. And it's really hard to keep creating new things for different people to go to, especially when sometimes I imagine the session very visually, and when it actually comes out, since it's a verbal medium, it's not exactly how I anticipated it would go. It's pretty stressful to DM, but it is still fun to like show what you want to show your players and like have them explore your own world. So both of them are really great.
A different play style for sure. Let's see. What do you like most about this hobby?
I think honestly, the thing I like most about it is having a dedicated time where I can actually sit down and hang out with my friends. Because without something like a role-playing game that like structures when we hang out and making sure that we do it consistently, it's pretty easy to just not be able to schedule the time to get together. But it's just really great to be able to see my friends and then hang out as like different characters and explore new worlds, basically.
So you're an artist as well. How does that connect with playing tabletop role-playing games?
Yeah, it's really great to be an artist and play role-playing games because probably the majority of what I draw focuses on those games. It's simultaneously like I can create things through art first and then bring them into the role-playing world. Or when I have like a really amazing scene that I do with my friends or something else where it just I can visualize it in my head and I know exactly how I want it to look on paper. It's really inspiring, basically.
For sure, for sure. Let's see. So you mentioned Monster of the Week earlier. What do you like about it?
So it's a really simplified system compared to D&D. D&D is complicated, to say the least. But Monster of the Week is just so easy to get into, and everything about it flows so naturally. It's really heavily based on like Monster of the Week shows and things. So it feels more like an episode of a TV show, and there's always going to be good pacing because at any point, if the players aren't doing something to advance the plot, the keeper can, who is the GM in this case. And yeah, I feel like it never gets as dull. And there's also a lot more like ability to have really dramatic moments.
Can you share a favorite dramatic moment from one of your recent sessions?
Yeah, there's been a lot of really great moments. One thing that happened to my character specifically recently is, so my character I play is Harvey, and he has a lantern that is definitely cursed. But he's using it to try to talk to his sister who is dead and like summon her ghost. And things don't go well for him. He was sent into some sort of like dream nightmarescape and had to explore around to see how to get out. And it was just, I don't know, it was really intense and kind of like unexpected. So yeah, it was
That sounds very spooky.
Yeah. And you're the one who did it to me.
I know. Is there anything that you've learned from the hobby?
I think a major thing that I've learned is that everyone always has something to add to a creative discussion. You know, like a lot of the people I play with, well, about half the party is not as interested in art or not as proficient with it. But they still can help me add to my art and like build it from there. And also just everyone having such a different take of like their character or where they want the story to go. It just helps build something that I would never make on my own, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, can you give an example of like when one of your friends helped you do that?
Yeah, well, so, okay. There's been a few times when my friends have commissioned me to draw their characters. And normally I have a very clear vision in my head of what I want these people to look like. And hearing how everyone else in the group envisions that character as I start to like draw the preliminary sketches and like figure out who they are is really interesting because it's not always the same as what I would think. And I think it helps create something really unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is all the time we have for today. It's been great having you here, Ella.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for joining us today. Tune in next time to see another featured student on the forum.